What's up, my indie animation darlings? Today we are talking about the new series here on YouTube, House on the Outlands, the latest addition to the indie animation market, and like with most of these shows, it has its own unique angles while still being reminiscent of other shows that you guys probably already like. Now, House on the Outlands just released its season finale with a total of 6 episodes, each of which is less than 2 minutes long. This may seem like a really small story with such a short season and such short episodes, but they are a masterclass in using your time constraints to tell an interesting story. House on the Outlands focuses on the character of Harmony, a young girl living with her single mom in her house on the Outlands, where they find themselves constantly under the attack of supernatural threats sent from Sha Fan Hua, a character who, until this finale, hadn't made an actual appearance outside of the opening. This is a show you might imagine as a cross between Spooky Month here on YouTube and Hilda, the Netflix series, both being about kids in their spooky homes dealing with supernatural threats. Now, Season 1 is actually shorter than this video is probably going to be, so I recommend watching it before we break down all of the episodes with their spoilers. But for those of you who are on the fence, keep watching this video, and if you like the ideas, you'll probably find the shorts just as enjoyable, even with the upcoming spoilers, as the more information you have about the show, the more interesting it becomes to rewatch. Episode 1 spent its precious little time setting up this basic formula for the show. Harmony is introduced as a strangely demonic-looking child of her mother, Mrs. Watson, with strange supernatural monkeys who travel through a magic portal in her clock, destroying everything in their home. When things get destroyed, Harmony's mother blames her, not having seen the monkeys. When her mother isn't looking, Harmony is able to find the monkeys and use the powers she has to fight them, but in the end, the damage she causes only makes her mother more angry. This sets up an interesting premise, but one that is a bit relatable to the imagination of a child, which is what the show is actually about on some level. Harmony is a kid who lives in a house on the Outlands, seemingly without any real friends or neighbors, and thus most of her play is alone and fantasy-based. She's like the many kids that just want to play and have supernatural adventures in their head to escape their boring lives. This isn't a theory that it's all in her head or anything, as the supernatural elements are real within the show. It's just the perfect metaphor for being a lonely kid with an active imagination, one that ends up causing strain between a lonely child and a single parent. Now, this is a short episode, but like with a lot of short-based media, it's meant to be watched over and over, and thus has a lot of rewatch value. It's one of those productions that uses the art of simple backgrounds to accentuate ideas, as opposed to making them something that's just pretty to look at, something that is often overly detailed in other shows such as Magical Girl Madoka, but have no real bearing on the plot, the story, or the world around the characters. Not that I don't love Madoka's beautiful background art and how it kind of fits in its own meta lore, but Western animation often uses much more simple background designs with a strong focus on what they say about the world and the characters instead of trying to draw you in with just beauty. When episode 1 starts, it's not anything random that's being destroyed, but Harmony's grandmother's china. This, coupled with the old house in the Outlands, paints the picture of Harmony and her single mother living here because they essentially have nowhere else, nothing else, and no one else. Her mother is holding a picture of herself as a little girl with her mother, emphasizing the deep relationship she had with Harmony's grandmother, who seems to have given her and Harmony a home when no one else would. This also paints the grandmother as having passed away, and Mrs. Watson is thinking that Harmony is not as close with her as she was with her own mother, especially based on how well behaved she is. When Harmony defeats the apes using her powers, she is laughing evilly, and Mrs. Watson has no reason to think Harmony isn't some evil child who enjoys making her mother suffer and laughs at it afterwards, destroying things that were important to her and her own mom. She doesn't see the supernatural drama that Harmony is caught up in, and she thinks her once normal child is now something of a monster. And while the episode itself did start with Harmony already having this strange demonic appearance, the opening theme shows that she once looked very different, and even had purple hair. But all this changed when some shadows from a mirror took over her and gave her these demonic powers. This implies Harmony did not get these demonic powers until she moved into the house, meaning the troubles for her and her mother started relatively recently, perhaps with the grandmother getting sick before suddenly passing away. Mrs. Watson would interpret this as Harmony sort of rebelling against this move to the house on the Outlands, which is likely an isolating and stressful experience for both of them, albeit a necessary one because of their place in life right now. The opening itself is important to the framework of the show. While it can take up a solid third of some of these episodes, it is a banger opening reminiscent of the addictive kids shows that gives you the feeling that you've already watched an episode or two just by seeing the events in the opening and grooving along with the song as they explain the story. It's here that we see several characters who appear later, including the evil Sha Fa Wan herself. She seems to be sending these forces after Harmony in order to get her soul and perhaps strangely, her magic. Other characters appear in the opening that haven't appeared in the 6 episodes of the show as well, which indicates that there are plans for Season 2, which really makes sense considering Season 1 doesn't wrap up the story quite yet. Episode 2 introduces us properly to a character seen in the opening, who Harmony calls Virgil, but who the narrator refers to as her Beowulf. This is a teddy bear who turns into a monster werewolf during a full moon, and elsewise acts as a cute protector to Harmony. For this episode, Harmony is having a picnic with Virgil at a graveyard, playing deeper on the idea of her isolation. In the Outlands, there aren't many civilized places for her to play, and she only has a stuffed toy to be her friend. While out for this picnic, they are attacked by a mysterious boy who had appeared in the opening, who reveals that he was sent by Sha Fa Wan to collect Harmony's soul. Thanks to the full moon, Virgil is able to save her, but that isn't the end of Sha Fa Wan's plans. Episode 3 kicks off with Harmony exploring her attic, looking for cookie cutters to make some winter treats with her mother. However, when she finds a mysterious old chest, it unlocks a crazy gooey shadow monster that takes the form of Harmony and tries to kill her mom. Virgil saves the day again by getting Harmony out of the chest, where she is able to murder Shadow Harmony. This episode you might think of as filler, but it's more so the first opportunity they get to play with the ideas in a bubble after introducing the concepts in episode 1 and pushing more characters in episode 2. We get to go back to the roots of the themes of the story, which is the idea that there's this dark side to Harmony, this time represented by an evil monster she found in the attic taking her form. This is essentially what Mrs. Watson imagines Harmony as right now, someone trying to be evil and monstrous, but who the real Harmony is trying to subdue. It's an episode that becomes more interesting to watch after seeing the scope of the series, because it's the first attempt to take the show's overarching themes of good and evil within Harmony and turn them inward. Harmony's name itself means to find balance, and to emphasize this, Harmony has her yin and yang shirt on all the time, painting her as someone who represents a balance or harmony between good and evil, which requires embracing your dark self, but also being able to hold that evil version of you back. The episode has real supernatural elements within it, but it's reminiscent to children who sometimes have an evil side that comes out when their parents are pushing them to do things they don't want to do, like go search the attic for cookie cutters. It's here where your imagination gets the best of you, and when that happens, also perhaps your dark side can take over as you're not doing what your parents are asking of you, and instead fooling around and coming up with fantasies. And Harmony isn't just a balance of good and evil because she has evil in her and is elsewise naturally human, but the big finale reveals that Harmony may have powers that stem from sources of light in addition to darkness. But turn back now if you don't want spoilers. In addition to this, I haven't spoiled episode 5, which is my favorite episode and one I think a lot of people would like to see for themselves instead of having spoiled by a dissection here, though I do have a lot to say about that one as it's a really fun episode. But for those still watching, episode 6 takes place with Harmony sleeping just as her mother comes into her room to surprise her for her birthday with some cake. When she walks in, however, Harmony is missing, with only her clothes being left behind. In the dream world, Harmony has been taken prisoner by a demonic rat and her bully from episode 2, who reveals that Harmony has fallen asleep on what they call the Elder Solstice. The solstice is an event that takes place twice a year, where the sun first reaches its highest and then lowest points from the perspective of our Earth in the northern hemisphere before it begins to tilt its shift back towards the other extreme. This happens first with the summer solstice on June 21st, which is the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, followed by the winter solstice, which you may call the elder solstice, on December 21st, which is the shortest day of the year. In the dream, Harmony has her evil energy taken from her, and it is Sha Fa Wan who emerges from this energy. This indicates that she was the force trapped in the mirror that Harmony found in the opening title sequence, and that Harmony has accidentally been holding inside of her as this sort of dark power. Sha Fa Wan wasn't sending people to get Harmony's soul to restore her own power, however, and even with her escaping Harmony on the Elder Solstice, she still wants Harmony's soul and memories for herself. Harmony's mother is freaking out back at the house, but when she clings to Harmony's shirt, she falls asleep and enters the dream as well. In the dream world, Mrs. Watson is no ordinary human, but instead, she seems to possess some great infinite power of light. So powerful, it defeats the essence of darkness of the evil lady whose name I keep mispronouncing comes from. The two wake up safe, and Harmony's mother rationalizes that it was all a dream, even the part where she walked into the room and saw that Harmony was missing. In this emotional moment, she recognizes that to lose Harmony, despite their troubles, would be the saddest thing in the world, and that makes Harmony sad, because with her still having her demon form in the waking world, she fears that she still may be taken away by one of these evil forces at some point, that she herself will corrupt and become evil, and something her mother of light would not love anymore. But Harmony is a part of that light too, and she very clearly has the blessing of her mother both in the physical realm and in the spiritual realm, where Harmony being saved seems much like a deus ex machina, or literal hand of God, reaching down to save Harmony from the darkness. It gives baptism vibes and Holy Spirit descending upon you and asking for forgiveness energy. Harmony herself is a child of the light from her mother, but also has the essence of evil in her, and she seems destined to be some force of balance between those two things. But how that will play out, I'm not too sure yet. Season 2 will hopefully answer these questions, as well as introduce characters like this cool headless villain from the opening sequence. If you haven't seen the show yet, go check it out. I'll put a link in the pinned comment down below to a playlist with all of the episodes. If we support it enough, maybe even buy some of their merchandise, maybe we'll get a season 2. But let me know what you guys thought about the show and about indie animation in general, especially the more short format shows, as I feel like we don't talk about those as often, but some of them are getting really complex with just 1-minute stories. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, as I said, and I'll see you next time.